Well, Razorback fans, I'm going to talk football, and I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons why this football team goes bowling this upcoming season in college football. So let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of the John Nabors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, where right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning bet. That's $150 with any $5 winning bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, as we have now really entered into the fun times, the most creative times in the sports world, and one of my favorite times of my career during the year, because it really slows things down. It makes you get a little bit more creative, but I actually enjoy it. I don't know if anybody else does. I don't know if people even care as much to hear about Razorback sports, but I just like to kind of throw things together, see what sticks, see what's happened, see what tracks. And we're going to talk a little bit about something that Eric Musselman had to say today on an interview and talking about Arkansas, but also a question that was posed to me. But I did want to do a little Top Tuesday action of the top 3 reasons why I believe Arkansas will go bowling this year in college football. Now, let me preface this by saying these are not in any particular order. I didn't rank them or anything. It's just the top 3 reasons as to why I believe Arkansas will actually go to a bowl game this year. It's maybe not ideal for Arkansas to be in this position. It's maybe not very fun for Arkansas to be coming off of a 4-8 year and many people not thinking much of you, and they're probably going to pick you to finish, out of the 16 teams in the SEC, probably 14th at best. It's just the way it is. But there is reasons to believe that this team will go bowling, and one of the reasons why I believe this team will go bowling is the very obvious one and the simple one, and that's Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino, being the offensive coordinator now, has really changed the dynamics of how Razorback football will be approached offensively this next season. And I started thinking back to the times that Arkansas has had a successful offense post Bobby Petrino. And it was pretty fascinating because in the Brett Bielema era, there was one year in particular in 2015 where the offense was really going. Brandon Allen had over 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Alex Collins ran for like 1,400 yards. Really a great year offensively. And then you had in, 2016, a decent year. I think Austin Allen threw close to 3,000 yards and almost 30 touchdowns, but you had Raleigh Williams have over 1,000 yards. And then after that, it took a while. But then it got back to having to where you had a good offense, a pretty balanced one in 2021, but one in 2022 where KJ Jefferson had 2,500 yards passing, and you had Rocket Sanders with 1,400 rushing yards, one of the best running back performances of a season. And so you've had some times where the offenses look pretty good, but in this particular case, in this particular year, it's going to look so vastly different. Because not only do you have a new offensive coordinator and offensive philosophy, but you have a brand new quarterback, brand new running backs, brand new offensive line. Most of the wide receivers return. Most of the tight ends return. But this is going to be a unique year because, folks, if you take away the Chad Morris years, which I try to each and every day of my life, quarterback-wise, you've had a pretty long string of QBs that stayed around and had success. I mean, going back to Ryan Mallett, Tyler Wilson, Brandon Allen, Austin Allen, through that stretch, and even KJ Jefferson, you always felt like you had a solid quarterback and solid quarterback play. But now you got a new guy in Taylor Green, which I'm telling you right now, he's the real deal Holyfield. We'll talk about him. But the Petrino-minded offense is going to be one that you may not score the most points in the SEC, but it's going to be competent. Last year's offense for Arkansas was not competent. There was nothing about it that looked good, felt good, was aesthetically pleasing, like all of that. It was pretty gnarly. I mean, you lost a game 7-3. Need I say more? So I think the offense is going to be vastly improved because you have one of the greatest offensive minds in Bobby Petrino. The other reason being is Taylor Green himself. Now, we have only got a chance to see Taylor Green in spring practices as well as in the spring game here at Arkansas. And if you look at his stats over at Boise State, they're always going to be popping up. You're like, oh, what about this? I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Well, I'm telling you right now, Taylor Green is the quarterback that Bobby Petrino has wanted. And he's always wanted him. He's 6'6", got a big frame. He's very athletic, very gifted that way. And I've always kind of looked at it with Petrino that he's had some quarterbacks that have been a lot better than others. I mean, he had a Heisman Trophy winner, Lamar Jackson. But if it's a quarterback that he wants, not that he inherited, not that he was forced to get, not anything like that. If it was a quarterback that he wanted and he's been eyeing for a long time, it's got to give you the indication that there's a lot of reasons to why he did. Because it fits perfectly with what he's trying to do. It could be his athleticism. It could be his leadership. It could be his arm strength. It could be his understanding of the offense. Whatever it is. That is a great feeling if you're a Razorback fan to know that Sam Pittman told Petrino, go get yourself a quarterback, and he went and got one. And he got the one that he wanted. So I also feel like that particular thing is what's going to help Arkansas's offense when you have a great offensive mind mixed in with a great quarterback to lead who has offensive pieces around him that could be really successful. Yeah, it gives you the idea that it's going to be a lot more improved. But the third and final reason why I believe this Razorback team will go bowling this year is because you can say what you want about Sam Pittman, but each and every year his teams are always competitive. Last year, it fell off the rails at the end of the year. We all know that. But last year, you were so close in some of those games in the beginning, like on the road to LSU, on the road to Bama. Lost both those games by a field goal. Even against Ole Miss on the road, you only lost a touchdown. A loss is a loss. No one is saying that, but the teams are always competitive. They at least feel like they belong on the field. And that's been the case really since Sam Pittman arrived. I mean, you talk about blowouts that Arkansas suffered. There hadn't really been that many. I know that, again, Auburn and Missouri last year, again, the thing fell off the rails, we all know. But before that, Georgia of 2021, when you got beat badly, 37-0. But besides that, I mean, it hasn't really been that way. In fact, like Alabama, when you've taken them on, it felt like you're always making it as close as anybody's ever gotten against Bama. I mean, LSU, you've had, 4 straight games now decided by 3 points between these two teams. So I just like the fact that there's always going to be a fire, a competitive nature, a toughness. They're gonna fight hard, and I'm hopeful for that this year again with a rejuvenated offense, with a new Bobby Petrino, with a new offensive line coach, with Mateos, Pittman, kind of just letting that, and then the defensive coaches really just sticking together for the most part. I think there's going to be significant, great jumps and improvement on this team. And also, as you guys know, it's been late on me. As you guys know, there's always going to be about special teams and defense and all of that, which is also very important. But, this schedule sets up nicely for Arkansas at least having their toughest games at home. But it didn't matter last year because they lost all their games at home, it felt like. But I think that Arkansas will go bowling, and I think, as you guys know, it's a 6-6 season that gets you to a bowl game. It's not exactly going to set the world on fire, but still. We'll talk a little bit about basketball, though, and what Eric Musselman had to say. I know he probably don't care, but I think it's kind of interesting. So just remember, though, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just some job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like professionals on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and may not have the time or the resources to really do the hiring that they see fit, and they are constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They just launched a feature that is able to help you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. This was a little interesting thing that happened with Eric Musselman speaking on the College Hoops Today podcast with CBS Sports with John Rothstein. Now, again, some of you may not care about this, and that's fine. I get it. But I still think that closure is always great for people. It helps everybody kind of understand, where they came from and maybe what's led to some of the decisions that they made. But this was a great write-up on nattystatesports.com by Scotty Bordelin, where he was a guest, and he said that he touched on an array of topics, including what it was like for him to leave the Razorbacks in Fayetteville. Musselman said the decision was super hard. He says, quote, I understood, my family understood, our staff understood that the University of Arkansas basketball job is one of the very, very best in the country historically and at the current time. You look back at the winning with Nolan Richardson and Eddie Sutton, there's been historical wins and historical seasons. And we felt like in the 5 years that we were there, some great things happened from a winning standpoint, from an NCAA tournament and March Madness run standpoint, and then from the guys that we got drafted. So he went into all of that, of just, kind of coach speak and everything there too, but he also went on to say that his wife, Danielle, and daughter, Mariah, remain in Fayetteville for now, but they are heading this way because they're going to move and permanently live in California. He also said that he felt that USC is the right job for him at the right time, both personally and professionally. He says the USC brand is really, really special as well. From an academic standpoint, it's a special place as well, so he left a great job. Family situation, they have great friends in Northwest Arkansas, so it's not only leaving a job, you're also leaving friends that you've met. It's hard. It's hard to change jobs, but there's also a ton of excitement in it as well. It's pretty much what he had to say. Now, did he talk about anything just like mind-blowing, oh my goodness, can you believe he said that type stuff? No, not really. I mean, it didn't really get into that level. But again, I always like to see comments like this of just if there's any sort of indication in going into it. And I'll be honest. If a coach left, if Muss left, so funny how sports work. If Muss left the way that he did, and Arkansas was unable or did not hire someone like John Calipari, the animosity, the angst towards Muss would be much higher. So I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I have not really thought about Eric Musselman. I haven't. I have really just focused on John Calipari. And I think that's what happens whenever you get in a position where you feel like you upgraded as a coach. Eric Musselman's a phenomenal coach. But when you go from him to John Calipari, it makes that transition a little bit easier. And most of the time, I noticed that programs, if they didn't feel like they got a better coach, they care a lot more about the coach that they lost. See Kentucky. But you don't really have to worry about that with Muss. He said nothing but respectful things about Arkansas, talked about the love that he has for Arkansas. And that's kind of where I'm at with it too, where it's like, hey, listen, I'm always going to have a place in my heart for Eric Musselman. I mean, the guy was awesome to me, and he did an awesome job at Arkansas. But, it's just so funny how quickly that all went. I mean, 5 years. 5 years. Muss was here as long as Stan Heath. Like, really, if you think about it, Stan Heath was at Arkansas for 5 seasons. So was Muss. I think Pelfrey was there for 3 or 4. Anderson was for 8. So, Muss had one of the greatest runs, and I think without question, he's the 3rd best coach to ever coach at Arkansas behind Nolan Richardson and Eddie Sutton. But he did it in such a short period of time. It was wild. But again, he gets it, that he knows he left Arkansas in a better place. He knows he left a great job, and he knows that it's going to be great. And I know I wouldn't be surprised at all if Muss sometimes randomly returns to Arkansas during the offseason just to say hi to everybody. But he's got himself a good situation at USC, at least theoretically he does. Especially now he's got to join and play in the Big Ten. That's going to be fascinating to see how he handles that. But I just, again, always want to think it's fascinating for what Muss is thinking. And it's great for Arkansas because, again, I would say most of you probably haven't thought. Me bringing up Eric Musselman right here in this podcast is probably the only time you've really thought about that. So, anyways, glad he's doing well, I guess. Whatever. Doesn't matter. All right, folks, before we get to the last segment, I got to tell you about FanDuel. It's a winner-take-all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. It's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I thought about maybe doing this topic into a more in-depth podcast, and maybe I still will. We'll see. Time will tell. But I got asked this by someone that I actually respect, and somebody that's not even from Arkansas, has no ties to Arkansas, someone who's in the media. But it simply just asked, hey, do you think Arkansas is ever going to win a title in a major sport again? It's almost like they listened to my podcast yesterday or my show when I talked about this was the worst year in Razorback history. I hate it. But it's a valid question. Will Arkansas ever win a national title in a major sport? No disrespect to track. I think people are looking to expand on their horizons a little bit. And my short answer to him was yes. Yes. Arkansas will. It's going to happen, folks. I know that football may be a long shot. I think we all understand that. But if I was to tell you that I've already got Eric Musselman on the brain. If I was to tell you that John Calipari in the next 3 to 4 years was going to win a national championship, would you be that shocked? I mean, maybe shocked in a more of a snarky way because it's like, oh man, Arkansas, we actually won one. Like maybe that. But just level with me a little bit. With knowing what Calipari has and the NIL and the talent, like, would it be the most shocking thing ever if he won a national title? No. And the same thing with Dave Van Horn, which I know that a lot of you felt a certain way yesterday on the podcast and on my show about Dave and the job he's done. But if I was to tell you that in the next 2 to 3 years that Dave Van Horn was going to win a College World Series title, would you be shocked? Would you be surprised? Again, maybe you would be in a snarky way. But I think that most of you would probably say, you know what? I could see it. I could see it. That's big time. But it's also true. Now, those are the big sports to me. You know, who knows about women's basketball or softball or anything like that. But when it comes to the big three, 2 of the 3 sports, not only do I feel like you can compete for a championship, but you have all the pieces and all the things that you need to do so. It's not easy to win a title, as we all know. It's not. But at least in 2 of the 3 major sports, you can't say that Arkansas is not there, right there, on the cusp of it, and they have everything that they need. You can't say that. So who knows? Maybe I'll dive into that a little bit more in depth. I thought it was a good question. But either way, I still think it'll happen. Maybe not as soon as you want it to, but I still think it'll happen. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.